Hello, welcome to the January 28th, 2022 Club Cubase live stream. My name is Greg Undo. I'll be the host for the live stream today. I'm going to go ahead and do just a quick audio test to make sure everything is coming through on my end. Bear with me just for a moment. Hello, welcome to the January 20th. All right, sounds like everything is coming through just fine. So once again, my name is Greg Undo. I work for Yamaha Corporation of America as a Steinberg product specialist, and I will be the host for the live stream today. If you have not attended a live stream before, what you could do is simply ask questions in the chat field, or you could have questions submitted in advance if you send them to clubcubase@steinberg.de. Today it is the last live stream of the month, and a tradition we've done for the last year or so is last live stream of the month. We'll do a 2-hour live stream and then have kind of a Zoom social meetup. So I just posted the Zoom link details, and I'll try to post it every half hour. So this will only be going on today, January 28th, from 3 to 5 p.m.-ish Eastern time in the U.S. So if you're watching this like a year from now or afterwards, so that's when the live stream, the live Zoom meetup will be. So look forward to wonderful discussion, and it's really wonderful to talk to everyone and get to meet attendees of the live stream. So look forward to seeing some new faces and people that have already participated in the past. We should have all of the topics discussed in today's live stream pinned to the top of the comments field several hours after everything is done. So we'll have that done, and that will have timestamps with all the topics that are discussed. So look forward to that. And if you wanted to check out some of those indexes that have been created before, you could go to cubaseindex.com, and Jan from Stockholm has been kind enough to compile a website where you could search for topics that have been covered in previous live streams. So we want to give special thanks to that. We have 2 people that serve as moderators. So we want to give special thanks to Jazz Dude and Agent K. They're not Steinberg employees. They just kind of do this out of the kindness of their hearts. So I want to give special thanks to them. And also another wonderful resource of information that you could work with is going to be the Cubase Nation Discord. I know Jazz Dude spent a lot of time creating just a wonderful compilation of tutorials and information that are relevant to the Cubase community. So I want to give special thanks to him for all of his support and everything he does with that to make it a better place for all Steinberg users. And so let's go ahead and get started, since we have kind of a shorter live stream today. So just see how to export MultiTrack wave files, Polywave in Cubase Pro 11. I need Polywave for live shows. 1 and 2 equals left, right, tape front of house. 3 equals click for DR, I guess drummer. 4 equals Q click for everyone else. For example, how I use weight. Now I use wave agent. So if you need to do this, I'm not sure if you need it to be like a polyphonic wave where it's one audio file with all of those different sources that are tied together. So if that's the case, we could, so if I wanted to come here and have, let's say if I rendered a click, give me just quick second here and I'll get my computer on the right. So I'm going to come here and let's say I'll just go to my signature track, and I will, at this point, I'll render an audio click between the locators. All right, so if we wanted to do like everything going to left and right, so I'm not sure if you need it like Often when you deal with Polywave, we could do up to 6 channels, or but I'm not sure if it's just separate tracks that need to be stemmed. So let's say if I was doing this live, I may just add group tracks. So let's say I wanted to add 3 group tracks. And I could take all of, let's just read through. So let's say, I need all waves going to these files. So I will just deselect. I'll move these groups to the bottom here. All right, so I want to select all of my wave files here. And I could go to my sends, and I could say, okay, we're going to send these all to group 1. If I hold down the activate Q link, that would help. So let's come over here. Let's send these all to group 1. And I wanted to turn these on, and we'll send it at the same level. I want the click to go out of, let's say I just rendered a click track here for the drummer. I want this to go out of, and we'll send this to group 2. Okay, so we have 3, and let's say 4, a Q click for everyone else. So at this stage, we'll call this backing track. And we'll say drummer click. And you could also just come here and choose to say, I want to take this, and everyone else click. So at this point, I could just kind of take these particular files and, I could route them through these different buses here. So let's say I want to take everyone else's. So I want to take, the click going, to different sources. So I could route these. So I'm not sure if you need to actually down mix these into separate files. So if we come over here, let's do an export audio mix down. I could say we just want it to, do multiple. And then I could say, okay, I want my backing track, my drummer click, and everyone else clicks. And I could render that if you need it. And it's pretty rare that you would need it as like an interleaved file, like a 6-channel interleaved file. We could just route these to a particular like to a 5.1 bus, and then have that 5.1 bus route each of these groups to different channels in the 5.1 bus. But if you could let me know, and it's from Chromeboy, if you actually need an interleaved file or not, because that's generally what a Polywave is. Okay, so we have a question. Hello from Seoul, Korea. Thanks for joining us from Korea. I got another question for you, hoping you can help me with this. When I have many vocal comps stacked on one track, is there a way to auto-delete everything that's not covered, not showing unused takes and parts of takes without viewing lanes and deleting, editing by hand? So if you wanted to do this, I think probably the best way to work with this is probably utilizing what we call delete overlaps functionality. So let's say if I've done a comp part here, so we'll open up our lanes, and I'm going to just go to preferences, and under editing, we could choose delete overlaps. So once we activate delete overlaps here, now as soon as I do an edit, so I'll say, okay, I just want it to, let's say I have a comp here, and I'll just kind of zoom in. So these are all kind of recorded on the same tracks, and I just want it to do kind of handy house cleaning. So let's say I'll just do my comp here. All right. So let's say now at this point, you know, if I wanted to, you know, get rid of all the other files, I could just come here and then, you know, as soon as we kind of resize one, all of the other ones will automatically kind of be taken out so that we could only see these particular files here. So once that's been done, and if I wanted to extend this out again, we could just come right over here and you could see that that will just kind of expose that area. The information is still there, but it's not in a way. So as I move this to the left, we'll see above where that section was before, that will now be gone, and I won't see any of the excess parts. So let me know if that's what you want to do. Okay, so it says, okay, so we have a question from Rob. It says, I tempo detected an audio file, but when I changed the tempo to tempo track in musical mode, along with the MIDI piano part, they don't match tempos. There's a step I'm missing to commit the tempo. Thanks for your help, Greg, as always. So I think probably the missing step that you want to do is I will just do a quick tempo detection to show this for people. Okay, so let's say if we listen to our file, it's not really matching with the particular tempo here. So I will come over here, go to the project menu, and we'll just choose our tempo detection. All right, so we've done our tempo detection, and now what I want to do is I'm going to just quickly find the downbeat. All right, so now we have a lot of different tempo variations. And a lot of times when we deal with audio files, they like to see a single tempo value. But if I wanted to place this into musical mode and have it match the MIDI, I need to select the event. We'll come over to our audio menu to advance. I think this is probably your missing step, and we'll say set definition from tempo. So as soon as I enable that, now the tempo changes have all been embedded into the file. And now it'll place it into musical mode. And if I want it to be a particular tempo, I can say, okay, I want it to be 165. Now it's going to play back kind of perfect tempo, 177. Or I could have it follow the tempo modes. So if I wanted this to kind of do a retard down. So again, once it's not going to take the tempo detected values until you select the event or events, and you can do this across multiple events as well. Go to audio to advanced and set definition from tempo, and then that should do the trick. All right, so we just see a question. Hi, Greg. Is there any way, from Alex Morgan again, is there any way to see routing in the lower zone mix console? I see only pan, inserts, sends. So when we look at this, we could, and the thinking of not having routing here is because most of the people would have the routing always available in a particular track right here. So since it is kind of the lower zone mixer, at this case, let's say if I just jump to another project, so let's come here. I'll activate the project. Let's jump to track. So I could see, my faders and panning here, mute solo, and then I could come right over here, switch to inserts and sends. But at this same time, most of the routing I could set up directly here on the particular inspector, so that's why it's not kind of duplicated. And we could kind of do the same function. So if I wanted to route all these to the left channel, my left output, I could just hold down the Q link, and now I could just say, okay, now all those particular channels are set to my left stereo out. So the functionality for multiply selected parts for little routing shortcuts can all be done from the inspector as well. So that's why they don't have the routing as part of the lower zone mixer, because if you're kind of working in the zone, many people have that information already available in the inspector zone. All right, so we just see where is Cubase 12? Thanks. So I think it's probably in the office at Steinberg with a bunch of people working hard on it. And as soon as it's released, then we'll be able to show you all the great things that it'll have. All right, so we see Robbie Bowling from Dallas. I also see Sir Robert. I saw your Facebook post about the club you were at, so I hope you weren't hurt. So you were in my thoughts. All right. All right, so we have Matt Elston checking in from London. Let's jump back to my other view here. Sorry about that. All right, so we have Roland checking in from Sweden. We have Benny from Sweden. We have a strong Swedish contingent. All right, we have Trans 2020 from Berkshire in UK. All right, and we have Beltram from Sweden as well. We have FJ Segovia from Madrid. All right, and we have Jan from Stockholm. We have Crocante from Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us. All right, we have Stefan from Sweden. You see Taylor Sapp from Pine Grove, Pennsylvania. We have Razel from Denmark. So I just see, hi Greg, I have a 93-minute long 5.1 film mix, 6 mono tracks going to a 5.1 master bus track. Is there a way to do an offline loudness measurement without running the whole 90 minutes? So what you could do probably is just select the files. And if you go to audio and go to statistics, so this way we could just come right over here, and this will show you, your a lot of information, including your loudness information directly there. So at this point, you could just do an offline process and look at the loudness of your particular track. So once again, select the file, go to audio and to statistics, and that way you won't have to play it. So give that a try. Okay, so we have a question from Taylor Sapp from Pine Grove. Says in Groove Agent SE Beat Agent tape saturation effects, can you explain modes 1 stage, 2 stage oversampling? So let's go ahead and take a quick listen to it here. They're probably just going to be different variations of it, but all right, let's check my routing here. Yeah. Okay, so all right, so let's go ahead and listen to it. Make sure. Okay, so let's come over here. Let's say on our master. Okay, so when we see one stage and two stage, what that means is, so when I see this, so one stage means that it goes through kind of one level of tape saturation. Two stage means that it goes through like the tape, that same process twice. So you could think of, often people would want to have, in the old days, they may record, like, remember when CDs, would say AAA, indicating it was all, recorded analog, recorded on analog, mixed to analog, mastered in analog, or AAD, so which would be like mixed in, recorded on analog, mixed to digital, delivered on digital. So this is basically running the same tape saturation algorithm through two different stages. So let's go ahead and just listen to it, and I'll just kind of crank the drive up here. So if I play the right drums, so that's one stage. So it's kind of extreme, and now we'll probably hear more of that because it's going through that same process twice. And what oversampling is going to allow you to do is just to always kind of work at a higher sample rate. So when it does processing, it may be at doing everything at let's say 48K, but it may do the processing at 96K. All right, I think I have a call from Peter Frampton coming in. I'll call him back. All right, so we see Millard Brown on the live stream. All right, so we see also, this is kind of going back to our film question of monitoring. So it is also an extra dialogue gated loudness measurement. So in Nuendo, there is a specific dialogue intelligibility meter, but there isn't anything like that in Cubase. Okay, so we have a question from Taylor. So in Sampler, after using pitch, filter, and amp, how do I get back to the original edit screen to adjust loop, start, end, etc.? Okay, so I'll come over here to a quick sampler track, and let me just drag a file in. Okay, so now that I'm here in, let's say I'll go to the filter, and let's say if I go to the modulation, so probably what you need to do is, and let me just make sure I get, so let's say you would go to the pitch, and then we see like the little filter modulators. So try just to make sure, like once you're here, that you have, so we could see the modulators here. So as soon as you just disable the modulator here, you can go back directly to the start and end position and do trimming. So try just to make sure that once you're in the pitch, filter, or amp modulators, that you just click there on the modulator button, and that should be able to get you back to do truncation and trimming samples. All right, so I see selecting drum loops in the right zone. I give 4 stars to favorites. How do I select those with only 4 stars like we used to in earlier versions of Cubase? All right, so let's say we'll come over here. Let's take a look at our loops. Okay. Just look for the ratings here, see if it's okay. Okay, so now right. All right, just gonna jump back here real quick. Let's say I'll just get to. Okay, so I can see that now when I come over here, you could activate the ratings. So let's say I do this. Let's say I give it some 4 stars. So I've gone through and giving some of these 4 stars. All right, so now once I've done that, I could just click on the ones that I've made 4 stars and the ones I've made 3 stars. So make sure that you come over here to the settings, and under media that you have ratings selected, and then you could say I want to see everything that's 3 stars, or I want to see everything that's 4 stars. You could see the ratings just kind of show up directly there. And you could also now just come over here and say, you know, like category if you want. So just make sure under media that you actually have like, you know, the categories shown here, and then you should be able to navigate by stars. All right, so see Nick from Essex in the UK. Thanks for joining us. And we have Strauss Songs from Austin, Texas. We have Michael Pierce. All right, we have Steve Allen from Cambridge. All right, so we have a question. Every time I open VST Connect 5.5, I have to remove VST Connect in the control room. So Connect itself adds the channel. So I haven't really run into that. You know, one thing that I would do, Benny, if you're running into that is when you go to like the VST Connect, you know, just click on the check and repair configuration. So if there is something that you had modified where it's not working as expected, this would often kind of take care of that and resolve the issue so you don't have to manually do that. So make sure you try to do that, and you can do that in the VST Connect Pro or the SE version as well. And that often fixes different little issues like what you run into. All right, so we just see, hey, Greg, any chance you could talk a bit about how to use the ADR system in Nuendo? Sure, we'll take a look at that. All right, so one of the cool things about that's kind of unique to Nuendo is the ADR functionality. And if you're not familiar with ADR, we often see, you know, videos of actors or Foley artists going in and re-recording their dialogue that maybe wasn't captured quite, you know, on set. You know, if you're kind of in the middle of a battle scene and you're filming, you may not be able to capture all the microphones, or you could have kind of classic stuff like, you know, you're doing a period piece in the 18th century and then an airplane flies overhead. So something that's very anachronistic. So you may often go, it's very typical to have dialogue that needs to be re-recorded. So let's say if I wanted to come and play, let me just see if I have, check my audio connections here quickly, see if we can. Okay, so let's say at this point, like we wanted to replace dialogue.
Help me.
Where the lady says, help me. All right, so like let's say, you know,
help me.
Or we needed to do it in, you know, dub it into a different language. So if we come over here to the project menu, we can say, okay, let's go to the ADR panel. Now the ADR panel is kind of intrinsically tied to different marker tracks. In Nuendo, you could have 32 independent marker tracks. So if I now wanted to just kind of come right over here to my dialogue marker track, I could set up like a quick cycle marker that we see indicated here for this event. And at this point, you know, we have different options that we could set up for this. So we could say, okay, for the video, I wanted it to swipe to center, or I want it to have a counter. We could have, you know, if we wanted to have beeps assigned beforehand, we could automatically record enable the target track during the recording process. We could say, you know, like it'll be kind of broken down where we could rehearse, record, and review that maybe you want to hear the music and effects or the guide track during rehearsal, but you don't want to hear the guide track during you don't want to hear it during the recording, and you don't want to hear it during the review state. So you could pick and choose exactly what components that you want to hear going on. And then as we work with this, a typical use is, yeah, and this would often be kind of displayed on a monitor that the actor is watching. So let's say I wanted to go to this particular marker. Sorry about the volume jump there. And we're going to rehearse. So it's going to do a pre-roll.
Help me.
And notice that we could also have kind of like, text that's done right there. So if I wanted to say, okay, the actress wanted to have, let's say, just a countdown instead. So I could say, okay, let's do a counter. So at this point, we can rehearse.
Help me.
And it'll just punch in and punch out automatically. And you could go, okay, I need to go to the next part that I need to do. So let's say if I just wanted to, okay, so we'll just do this, rehearse. And let's say, okay, the actor wanted to really just do a swipe. So at this point, we can rehearse.
Help me.
We can now say, okay, we can record. And notice that this little dot will change
Help
colors. Me. And now we could review.
Help me.
And let's just jump to another scene. So, often you may just kind of plow through hundreds of these. No! Okay, so we can say rehearse that. Okay, get ready to scream. It's going to punch in. No! And now we can review. No! So instead of using kind of like almost a musical comping paradigm for ADR, Nuendo is going to have specific functionality for that to streamline that whole process. Something that could be like, incredibly tedious to do is, just a couple of minutes. It could be done easily with the ADR functionality in Nuendo. All right, so we see Tim Weinheimer on the live stream, as well as Brian Sawyer from Beulahville, North Carolina. All right, so we just see Jay from Connecticut. His question is it possible to configure the video and audio in Nuendo in such a way that when the audio is sliced, that the aligned slices, that the aligned video slices with it? So, once we have a video file in, there's not a lot of people work this way, but you could do some rudimentary editing if you need to. So let's say if I'm just activate this project here. All right, so let's say if I had, I'll move this up. So we have our video file. Let's say if I have, just see if I can find. All right, so I'll just kind of. Okay, so let's say if I wanted to. Okay, so let's say if I wanted to now come right over here and I wanted to so I'll take this, let's go to our hit points. And what I could do now is once we have kind of like our hit point threshold and intensity set, we could choose to hit, I think it's Alt or Option plus N. So let's say if I come here, sorry, get the right keyboard shortcut. So we could just come right here. So now I'm navigating via the hit points. And if I wanted to do like a global cut, you know, I could cut the video based at the cursor. So I could just say, I just wanted to come over here. So let's say you just wanted to split, you know, so once we have the cursor set here, we could choose to just split, go to so we could navigate directly here and then split the video. So if you wanted to do cuts, you know, I think most people would tend to, you know, so at this point I could do a global split, and then you could, you know, re-render the video inside of Cubase or Nuendo. So, but it's probably not the best tool for that. But, you know, you could do it navigating via, you know, holding down Alt or Option plus N to go to the next hit point, or to B, and then you can make cuts there. But a lot of times the person doing video will want to do the video edits kind of independently and have the audio match up. But if you needed to do that, you could do that as well. All right. So we have Fadi checking in from Egypt. Is there a shortcut to freeze or unfreeze a track? So, you know, there isn't a shortcut for it, but, you know, what I would suggest for people that want a shortcut for this is just to kind of maybe migrate the workflow to doing render in place. So if you wanted to come here, let me just import that. So, you know, with render in place, it kind of gives you a lot of different options. So, and this is accessible via keyboard shortcuts. So if you just come over here to your render in place and go to your render settings, you know, here you could do it on individual events or the selected track. You could choose different levels of you know, of what processing is included automatically. So I kind of think of this as more contemporary workflow, and you could do that, but freezing would be done manually. And, you know, but, you know, consider using the render in place if you wanted to do it with a keyboard shortcut. All right, so we have Zelia Music on the live stream. Great to see you back. Okay, so just see from the first question from Chromeboy about the interleave files. It says, yeah, talking about interleaved multi-track file. I did several export options like LCRS, but didn't work. I'm using Behringer Wing to play the interleaved multi-track file up to 4 channels. So yeah, I mean that should work. So, you know, you could, you know, I would check to see. So let's say if I wanted to have this all right, so I'll just kind of put two different things here. Okay, so let's say now if I wanted to take just do two different sources. Okay, so let's say, so I have a mono track. So what I want to do is let's send these to, and I'm going to just create a quick click track. Between these. Okay, so I'm going to create a, in my outputs here, we'll create my audio connections. I'm going to create an output that's going to be, let's say, I'll just do quad. All right. So what I want to do is, let's say this track I want going out of, and then once we have this set up, so let's go to our VST connections, and I could create a child bus. So I'll just say, let's make this our stereo out within our 5.1. So I will come here. I'm going to route this not to the stereo out, but to the stereo out within the 5.1. And let's say my audio click, I want to route this to my left surround, and let's say the click for the rest of the musicians going to the right surround. When I click on the outputs. Okay, and so now I want to export. Do my audio mix down, and at this point I want to export my quadraphonic output. And we'll have this go directly into our project. So we'll create a new audio track. All right, so when we do this, we can see in our project here that we have the 4-channel interlead file. So let's say, okay, just come here. So we could have, like, you know, the drum part. In the left and right, I could have the click in input on channel 3 and another click on channel 4. So that was just kind of making our actual track right there. So let's just say, okay, we'll come over here to range. So we see that this is a 4-channel interlead file. So that should play back. Seems odd that the console would play back a file like that, but if it does, it does. So. All All right, so we see Michael Teens is on the live stream, so thanks for being here with us. I'm going to paste the Zoom meetup link as well again. So we'll be doing that in about hour and 8 minutes. All right, we see Jeff Sabelski on the live stream. All right, my chat field just jumped on me. All right, so we have a question, Daniel from Tel Aviv. So one, how to work properly with mixer configuration. We have a permanent template. And two, how to properly quantize an audio piano track. Okay, so let's say how to work with mixer configuration. So let's say I have a project here. I'll just open one that's kind of a bigger project so we could show. So if you're working with a template, that will make life a bit easier. So I'll go ahead and activate this project. Okay, so I'm going to open up my big mixer by hitting F3. So let's say I wanted to kind of create my own configurations. So here I have, you know, drums, bass, guitars, and a lot of background vocals. And let's say I wanted to create configurations for, I just wanted to see all of my drum tracks. So I'm going to come here and so I'll just come right over here. Let's go to our channel visibility agent. So I'm going to say show only channels that are selected. So now I only see my drum tracks, and what I want to do is to add a configuration and say drums. And now I want to see, we could jump back here. So let's say I want to, at this point, show all channels, and now I only want to see drums and guitars. So at this point, we will just say, let's show only selected channels, and now we'll add a configuration. And let's say I wanted to come over here. I wanted to now look at all of my vocals. So let's say I wanted to go to just look at all these tracks, and we'll call these Vox. Okay, so now we're back to where we were, and now if I just wanted to see only drums, I want to see bass and guitars, and I want to see my vocals. And if you have templates that are set up, you know, these are kind of easy to set up so that you could now just activate between the different mix console configuration views. All right, so we see this, and a second question, how to properly quantize an audio piano track. Let me see if I have one. Trying to remember what name of, yeah, I think this one. this one I think has a audio piano. Sometimes piano could be a little trickier to quantize, like if, they're playing different notes at the same time and maybe their left hand is out of time, but their right hand, which is playing at the same time, isn't. So let's see, we can show you some tips here. All right. So I'll just kind of come over here and, try to find, so I went to just, so let's say I want this to be 16th notes, and we can put audio warp on. Let's say if we do 16th note triplets. And then if you have just particular notes, once we are in the hit points, we could, just create warp markers from the hit points. And then if you needed to just, do free warping on, different piano parts, you could just choose to come right over here and just move and nudge different parts. But at this point I could just say, okay, as we would, choose to quantize, let's say to quarter notes, we could just kind of see that you could quantize just the results and see them right there. So give that a shot. All right, so we have Tiago from Brazil. Thanks for joining us today. Okay, it says, following the comping question, after a session with many punch-ins, sometimes the start of one comp overlaps an unused end of another, so delete overlap button can expose parts I don't want to use. Is there a quick way to delete all covered unused comps and the overlapped unneeded parts from comps only being partially used? So I think it's so delete all covered unused comps and the overlaps. Something that you might be able to do if you're doing this a lot, especially with comping. Sometimes, one method that I will do, like when doing comping, if you need to go back easily, so let's just revert this project here. So a lot of times I may just start off and do, okay, so let's say I have all these, I want to duplicate the version, and then let's say I will have my comp kind of all done here. Okay, so let's say that's my comp, and then I could duplicate that version. And at this point, let's say, okay, I'll close the lanes. And let me just audio bounce selection. So if I needed to go back to the original, I could do that. If I needed to jump back to the comp, I could do that. Or if I needed to have kind of the rendered version of that. So we go to lanes, there isn't any, but it's all kind of still on the same particular track in the different stages. So if you needed to go back, so maybe something like that may be able to help. All right, so we have Edward checking in from France and Paolo checking in from Portugal and Music Emotions from Holland. All right, and we have Jim Corrigan on from Nashville. Wonderful to see you, Jim. I hope you and Donna are well and that you'll be able to make our Zoom meetup. Okay, so I just see a question just about Groove Agent 5. Is there a specific YouTube channel or course to know basic and advanced functionality? So I have a number of Groove Agent videos that you can check out. I think it's on the Steinberg VST Instruments YouTube channel. So it's kind of a sister channel to the one that we're on now, but you could check those out. All right, so we see Fett on the live stream. Wonderful to see you, Fett. Also from Nashville, and hope you can make the Zoom meetup in about an hour. So I'd love to know the current approach to starting a song with a loop in Cubase nowadays, given all the features that have been added. All right, so let's just say we want to start a new song, starting with a loop. Okay, so let's say I just will pop over to my loops. Let's just audition some. All right, so let's say, okay, I'll just double click, and you know, often loops that like come with Cubase will automatically be in musical mode. If you notice that when you drag it in, that the file isn't matching with a click, select it and just put it into musical mode. Now it's going to be kind of a musical parasite. So if I say 100 beats a minute, and now I'll just extend this over. Okay, maybe I wanted to do a bass. So again, this will be in musical mode. And let's say this one, I wanted to transpose up. So when it goes to measure 9, it'll be up. And you could just kind of so let's say I'll just let's say now maybe I wanted to add like a little percussion. right, so and let's say just looking for maybe you could just kind of even drag and drop and take. So pretty much everything that you kind of just drag and drop right in will just kind of automatically fit. And yeah, but all you have to do is really just kind of put it into musical mode if it doesn't fit, and then it will automatically kind of assume the tempo of the particular it'll assume the tempo of the project. So if your tempo is changing, it'll automatically follow. All right, so we have Mohit from India. Thanks for joining us today. All right, we have Trond from Norway. All right, we have Cubase Junkie on as well. See Agent K on. All right, we have Michael Marshall from Somerset in the UK. All right, so we see question from Tiago. I have several mono tracks, routed to submixes, routed to another submix, and then stereo out. Is there a way to convert these mono tracks to stereo so I can pan in a third-party plugin? All right, so let's go ahead and see if I could create that. All right, so let's say I have all of my, so I'll take the bass here of this song. So I'm going to send this to a group channel. All right, just make sure I have. Okay, so I'm going to take this and route it to an instrument. Or I'm going to route this to group channels. All right, and I'm going to route that group channel to a group channel. All right. So it says routed to submixes, routed to another submix, then stereo out. Is there a way to convert these mono tracks in stereo so that I can pan in a third-party plugin? All right, so let's say we're doing this, and we can see that our bass is coming right over here. Now, as long as, you know, so if you wanted to pan a particular effect, you know, you could do it at the group level if it's going to be a stereo plugin, or just go to the sends. So let's say if I wanted to do this, you know, I could say, okay, let's activate a send, or I'm going to add. So let's say I'll do maybe, I'll try the auto panner. So we could hear kind of the so that way we could do it, or so we just have that going on. Or if I wanted to just come to this group where we have this set up, so I could just put the effect there. So as soon as I come so either way, you could still get the effect of the panning there. So you could just put the effects processing just on a group insert if it's a stereo group, or just use a send, and then you should be able to do that without problems. So we just see question, when converting a mono track to a stereo track, voice, etc., for example, is there a difference sonically, plugins, phasing, etc.? So, it could change because, you could be doubling the number of tracks with it. So, but, consider using, like a send for your effects if you really need to do that, or just, route it, you could route it to its own group if you needed to. Okay, so I just see question. I can't trigger the pattern with the MIDI controller, but the instruments can. What do I have to do, and how do I get all patterns? Example with a 5/4 beat filtered. Thank you very much. So, I assume that this is with Groove Agent. So we'll do a new project. Okay, so we'll just pop over here. Let's do a Groove Agent. So you might have to, set the particular patterns correctly from, from the correct MIDI notes. All right, so I'm just gonna open up my keyboard here in Groove Agent so I could see. So kind of like while I'm playing, if I wanted to do this, so if you open up the keyboard, you could see kind of the patterns here. So I'm just triggering this from my MIDI controller. So make sure that you're in the right range, because this may be like, your kick drum sample may be here. But you may have to set your MIDI controller. And then you could always just kind of map different parts here. So you can say, okay, I want it, different controls to be mapped. You could just kind of right click and learn a MIDI CC from your device and be able to trigger that. So let me know if that's what you're doing with that. And then we see, how do I get all patterns? Example with a 5/4 beat filtered. Thank you so much. So let's come over here to the browser in Groove Agent. There may not be a lot of 5/4 beats, but you could see in the style here, what you could do is just see under musical, select signature, and now you could select different patterns right here based on the time signature. So once again, just make sure you go to the browser and you can see kits or styles, and then you could see the time signature as a field that you could choose. Just kind of click right there under musical category to signature. Thanks for all the great questions. If you learned something, make sure you hit the like button, and that allows us to continue to do the live streams. Great. Let's just see if I missed a question earlier. I think there's from Daniel. Says, all right, so he just says, I guess he was replying to Mark Rabin. I would like Greg to show it because in my case it doesn't save my presets. Okay, so I think that this is with the with the mixer configurations. So let me just let's see it, so once we're in the mix console, so you should be able to just click on the add configuration. So let me know if that's not working for you, but it seems to work as expected. I haven't run into any issues with that not behaving. All right, so Aaron liked seeing the ADR stuff in Nuendo. So we see Mark Rabin asking, is it a Zoom day? So yes. So we'll be starting at the top of the hour. So the Zoom meetup will start in about 39 minutes. I'll post the link again in a couple minutes. I'll just do it now. All right. All right. So we see, hi, Greg. Can you please show me one example of how I can take my own 2 chords and put it into the gospel styles of using the flex phraser, and show me how to put it into my project? Okay. So let's do this. The flex phraser is going to work in like the full version of Hallian Sonic or Hallian. So I will just come right over here. Let's add. Just do it in Hallian Sonic, but same basic functionality. Okay, so when I come over here, So if I'm just going to trigger a chord. If I play a chord here. So, and to be able to kind of edit these, really all you have to do is come over here. Let's go to, I think we do this. Okay, so we go to the program layer and then we could see our flex phraser here. So I'm going to make sure that it's active and I could say, okay. And if I want this to be a different tempo scale, so let's say eighth notes. Or if I want this to swing a little more. So now to get this into, so let's say I just want to go between two chords. So let's say, and so using a flex phraser, how to put it into my project. So right now, if I just wanted to record those two chords, so if I just come here, I'm going to add a chord track. And let's just put, just activate my snap here. So even without really so I just put in the two chords and let's come over here. We'll have the Howling Sonic play. So as soon as I so now just the chord track is going to be playing the different so let's say so and that would be kind of really all you have to do. So let's say, okay, I'll come over here to so just that chord track is just driving the arpeggiator. So that's how you could do it. You could also choose to play the chords, record it into the flex phraser and drag those events right over into the project. But you know, you could just simply turn the chord track on and have the chord track automatically just play the chords fed into that part, and it will feed the arpeggiator of the flex phraser. So that's one way you could do it. Oren, good to see you on the live stream. All right, so we have Rick checking in from Oregon again. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so we just see, would you be so kind as to demonstrate setting up a macro to split video based upon target audio's hit points? I have wood shop videos to shop for my makerspace. Be super helpful, thanks. Okay. So just do new project. Okay. Okay, so I'll just hide the audio track here. Okay, and okay, so let's say I wanted to split the video. So okay, so I'm gonna just find the hit points here in the sample editor. Okay, so we have the hit points. So let's make a macro. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to be here. I wanted to, let's say, so we're going to move to the next hit point. We're going to then, I think, navigate up. Oh, sorry. Okay, so then we're going to split. Okay, so we'll just, then we're going to navigate down to the track, and this will be that the part will be below the video part. So let's add that, and let's see if and I'll assign this to, so let's see if it works. All right, I'm going to assign a keyboard shortcut to this, and then we could just keep that keyboard shortcut held down. Let's see if this keyboard shortcut is. Okay, so let's see if this works. So I'm just going to hold down that keyboard shortcut. And now we could have that automatically split the video based upon the hit points of the event. So once again, that macro is, and I did this with the part that's underneath. So we'll say split video at hit point. So we say transport, locate next hit point, navigate up, split the video, then navigate down. And if you just hold that keyboard combination down, it'll just go and go through all the different keyboard shortcuts and split the video for you based on the hit points. So hopefully that helps, Jay. First time we've been asked that question. All right. Jazz Dude wants people to smash the like button. Okay, my chat field jumped on me, so just jumping back. Okay, so I think I'm back to where I was. Sorry about that. Okay, just reading through comments. Okay, so we have music all days, listening in from Michigan. All right, so we have Chris from Reston, Virginia. All right, so Chris, who doesn't live too far from me, I'm in Alexandria, so he asks, can the chord pads be triggered by an external MIDI pad controller? I have the Arturia Mark II and want the pads to trigger the Cubase chord pads. All right, so let's come over here. I'm just going to add an instrument so we can hear the chords as we listen to it here. So let's just say... Okay, so we'll come over here to the chord pads. All right, so all you have to do is just come. We can see that when we open up the chord pads that we could just trigger these. we see like, these notes indicating exactly kind of what MIDI notes are triggering. So outside of that range, it's triggering the individual notes. And I think if I come over here, let's see if my pad controllers are. So just my drum pads, it'll kind of, most drum pad controllers will start at C1. You could just trigger it directly from there. And if you wanted to set that up, I think if we go to settings, you could choose the pad remote control. So you could say you wanted this to start. If your pads are set to a different MIDI note, you could actually start at, different MIDI note ranges directly here as well. So you could choose, whatever voice your controller will automatically work with directly in the setup there. All right, so we see Sable won't be able to join the Zoom because she has overlapping commitments. We'll miss you. All right. Glad that you can make the live stream. Okay, so we see, hello, question. If you want to record your Roland TD30V drums via USB as a MIDI track using Groove Agent, could you create a new MIDI track or new instrument track? Why? So I would create a new instrument track. Either would work. The instrument track consolidates, like when you go to add effects and EQs, it's all going to be kind of done within one particular, since it knows that the audio is going to be generated from the virtual instrument and it's not decoupled like MIDI. So there's no real advantage to doing MIDI. So if you're doing an instrument, you're probably better off using an instrument track. Okay, so we see, can the score editor be used to compose in the same function, for example, as Moose score? So, if you want to start with a blank score, so you could definitely do that. So if you wanted to come here and let's say we'll go into our score editor. So at this point, we could say, okay, do I want this to be, a split part, a polyphonic part? So if I wanted to be split like a grand staff or a single event, and then you can just kind of come over here. You could select, your notes. And then like if we have this, and this will be kind of set to the quantize value, I could just say as I put notes in, we could see like the little grid. And let's say if I switch my quantize value, you have keyboard shortcuts for this. You'll see kind of just that little grid show up like as you hold down so that you can, and let's say, okay, now I want to put in eighth note triplets. Or let's do quarter note triplets. Okay, so I could just say, and this will kind of automatically allow you to put the correct rhythms in for you. So you could get that little cheat sheet, if you will. So you could just come right there and, put in your notes just like you could in a notation program very easily. All right, so we see, all right, Edward checking in from Puerto Rico. Thanks for joining us. Been there a few times. Got to do a big Cubase demo there like 20 some years ago. A lot of fun. Okay, so we just see how to control Groove Agent SE5 drum kit tempo to slow it down. So generally, you know, once you have Groove Agent in, I will just kind of come directly over here. So let's say, I'll just open up an instance of Groove Agent. It's just going to automatically synchronize to the tempo. So we see that kind of as we're playing, let's say our project. So I changed my tempo here in Cubase. And we see that now I'm at 106, and that's, you know, 105, it'll be 105 here. So this is automatically just going to follow the tempo in Cubase. It just kind of gives you another indication of that. If you're running Groove Agent in standalone mode, you would see just the tempo show up as kind of its own field because it's not running in conjunction as a plugin. All right, just gonna check something here real quick. Okay, I see. I'm gonna put the Zoom credentials in one more time. Just I saw that maybe you didn't have the password, so let me just make sure I have that. Thank you, Michael Teams. Bear with me just a second. Okay, so this should have the passcode now. So sorry for the confusion. And if someone else could post that a couple more times. All right, so we see Luca checking in from Munich. Okay. Okay, so we see Greg, please explain some different ways to set up an Ed Sheeran style live looping and recording audio by only pressing MIDI foot controllers, basically for hands-free. So let's say I wanted to set up like a live recording. Okay, so if I wanted to do it hands-free, so I'll just do a new project. So I'm going to use just my sustain pedal on my controller keyboard. All right, so let's say I'm going to add 16. We'll add 24. Won't cost us anymore. All right, so I want to come over here and we'll start on this, and I want to do like a 4 measure loop. Sorry, just get the correct keyboard set up on my end here. Okay, so what I want to do is to basically, I'm going to have like these tracks armed for record, and then I want to go down to the next track. So, but we want to do it hands-free so we could sing and play guitar. So I'm going to go to my studio setup, and what I want to do is we'll go to generic remote. So I want to say, I'm going to do a learn. So, and then I'm going to hit my foot switch. So we see controller 64. And what do I want this to do is I want to do a command, and we'll choose navigate. So, and let's just say we're just going to navigate down. So I'm going to put this into like a cycle record. So let's say, okay, I'm recording and I'll get it back. All right, so we'll start recording. Okay, so now I'm just gonna, at the end of this pass, I'm gonna hit the foot switch. And that should just take us down to the next track so that we could hear what we're doing with the previous track. So let's say, okay, I like this, or I want to redo that. So now at this point, at the end of this pass, I want it to go to the next track. So I just hit the foot switch, navigates down to the next track. The other tracks are continuing to play so that you can just, okay, I didn't like what I just did. And you could have another foot switch that would just take it off, record, enable, so you could kind of jam more. You could just come right over there. Okay, now I want that part on a different track, this part on that track. So I could have my variations. Let's start a new track right there. So again, it's just using all hands-free, using my foot switch, just so that we could see and switch between different tracks like so. All right, so we'll be migrating again in just about 10 minutes or so. Okay, so we see a question from John Costigan. Can I use the alignment tool to line up all the individual SATB lines to one correct soprano comp, or could I just learn to count? So yeah, you could do that very easily. So we'll show you how to do that quickly. So we will come over to, I think I have an example. So let's say if you have a SATB, this will be kind of probably more voices, but as we go to listen, so you could take one of the tracks, let's say the soprano, open it, and then add that to the preferences, to the reference. Take the other tracks and add those as targets all at once, and align the audio. So that's really all you had to do for that. Okay, so I just see a comment, and okay, it says, what am I doing wrong, Jazz? Thank you. How do you mean adapt V drums and Groove Agent pads after recording? They sound quite bad, even though before recording they're okay. So if that's the case with Groove Agent, probably what you need to do is come over here. So let's add. So the trick is we're going to add a Groove Agent SE on the pattern pads. Make sure that you have this set to Omni. Otherwise, you might be triggering patterns in addition to the sounds that you recorded from your electronic kit. All right, so I just see from Chrome Boy, tried previously with the quad output setting as well. Tried it now with 2 stereo child buses equaling 4 tracks. It should work, but still no. So if you have like a project that you want me to set up for you, you could send me like a download link to clubcubase@steinberg.de. All right, so just see a question as a beginner. What would you suggest for me to focus on learning? I'm kind of confused on what I need to learn first for me to produce a okay mixing. I usually ended up with low volume record, you know. So what I would do is, you know, obviously, you know, Cubase can do so much, and it can be overwhelming. It's like, you know, throwing someone into like an incredibly advanced state of the art recording studio, regardless of what knowledge you have. So, you know, what I would, when you're trying to do something, you know, try to figure out exactly, you know, just do small little sections, learn something until you have that one little thing mastered, you know, and just learn one new little thing, teach yourself one new keyboard shortcut. You know, get through a process. Don't do everything. Say, today I'm going to learn how to get better at tuning vocals, or I want to work on drums. I want to work on getting better gain structure, and just take it like one step at a possible, one step, you know, and just kind of one step at a time. And then all those things will become very second nature to you. All right, so we have a question from Jeff Sabelski. Is it possible to reset the timeline to anything but 0 at the very beginning? I want the project to start at a specific time, such as 1100 hours. Okay, so let's say I have my cursor here at 1. So I think if we go to the project, there's a set time code at cursor. So let's say I just want this to be 11, let's see, frames, seconds, 11 hours. So I'll hit OK. Okay, and then as you modified, you want to keep the project content at its timecode positions. I'll say no. And now at this point, if we look at a ruler track, you know, you can see that now my measure 1 is set to 11 hours. So if I come over here, let's open a ruler track in the top, and we're going to set its value to seconds. So we could just see that starts at 11 hours. So once again, from the project menu, we want to set time code at cursor. Okay, I'm going to paste the Zoom link. So we'll get started in just a couple minutes again. All right, so we have David Griffiths checking in from Wales in the UK. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so we have a question. Is there a way to copy an automation lane to another track and invert it? I have 2 similar voices required, and I want them to symmetrically move in space pan. Okay, so let's try. So let's say if I come here. So let's say I have this track. All right, so let's say I copy this automation here. So just copy. And let's go down to this lane. Sorry, let me just. All right, let me just see if I could do it. So, you know, we could Okay, so now we have that automation there. So let's see if we could do it in a project logical editor. So say media type is equal to automation. Let's just look. Yeah, so I don't know a way of doing it in. I think if it would be done, it would be done in a project logical editor. Sorry about that. I could play around with it more. Okay, so it says, hi Greg, I'm having an issue trying to save a template, and when I do, it keeps coming up in the same folder it was made in. I want it to prompt me to use a different folder for a session. Is it possible? All right, so one is make sure that you did the save as template function, because that decouples the folder from when you do it. If you kind of save a project and call it template, it'll still keep the same project folder. So make sure that it's saved as a template. And then when you do a new project, you'll see this little option here in the hub where it says prompt for project location. And then you can see kind of all your templates set right there. And then you will be prompted for the file location. So don't just save a project and call it template, but actually save the project as a template. All right, so we just see, I hope this is being recorded, just getting on. So yeah, it will be available to watch probably about a half hour after we wrap up. All right, so we see, could I ask how the performance meter works? Should I be able to load around 80% before I get dropouts? What is average and maximum to my max value never seems to extend past the average. So, think of it, unlike CPU, don't think of it as a CPU meter, but kind of like what's going on for the audio performance with ASIO. So when we look at the meter, we could actually kind of see, you think disk cache is roughly kind of, what is, like your hard disk roughly, and then, we'll see kind of like the overall average performance, and that could vary depending on what plugins are being used and what the maximum value has been set for there. All right, we'll see if we get one more question before we migrate over to the Zoom. So I guess we're already a little bit late. I'm going to post the Zoom credentials in one more time. We'll go ahead and do that. This one should have the password in it. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's go ahead and migrate over to the Zoom. So I will launch the Zoom meeting here. Okay, and I will more people kind of migrating over. Oh, we have Jim Fox. And I'll go ahead and post the Zoom credentials one more time here in the live stream chat. So bear with me, and everyone just kind of work on migrating over. All right, so we have John Costigan coming in. Okay, so I think we're... All right, and I'm gonna turn off the Zoom meeting or the live stream in a minute. So I'll just open up the meeting invitation so people could see it on my screen. And I'll just admit a couple more people here. All right, so we hear a lot of talking in steps M, Mike, I think. So we'll wait just another minute or so and just leave this open where people could see the meeting invite. So again, it's meeting ID 857-4944-1229. And the passcode is 742848. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the live stream part. And everyone will be able to migrate over.